Did you ever wonder why Wizards of the Coast doesn't just stop selling booster packs and start selling singles directly to the players? Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to my video where we are going to discuss the scenario of Wizards of the Coast selling singles directly to the consumer as opposed to selling them in booster packs. For anybody who isn't aware of what I'm talking about, Magic the Gathering normally comes in booster packs like this. You get 15 randomized cards. So what we're talking about is instead of buying these booster packs, which is the only way to get the cards normally, instead Wizards of the Coast would sell you directly the individual cards you specifically wanted. All the cards would be available for sale, and you could order them directly from Wizards of the Coast instead of cracking boosters. Now, people have gone on saying this would be preferable, and in some ways, it certainly would be preferable. It would certainly reduce the redundancy in the game in terms of the same card being printed over and over and over. That Pegasus Corsair or Pegasus Charger, whatever it's called, that's been reprinted as the Rock Charger and was reprinted in M19 and in Dominaria, there would be no ability for them to sell you that same card over and over and over and over. Now, the reason that Wizards of the Coast doesn't sell you the cards individually is because it's more beneficial for them. Their whole system only works because of the booster packs. Now, I know I've talked about how they're trying to get into selling singles directly. Will they ever be able to get into fully the singles market? I don't think so. I've been going over the reasons that I can think of why, the reasons that this would work and wouldn't work. And I want to talk about a scenario where we're living in this world where you can only get the cards individually. Now, first of all, drafts are gone, and drafts are a huge thing that helps Wizards of the Coast sell their products. So that would be a major blow to them. The truth is, the majority of Magic cards suck. They suck when you compare them to the good cards, right? Like 95% of Magic cards are trash compared to the other 5%. That top 5% are the ruling class of Magic the Gathering. And you know that this is a fact because you can see it when you look at the standard environment. Look at any given standard meta at any given moment, and you'll be lucky if there are 30 different cards being used. It's more like 15 to 20 different cards spread out amongst all the decks. At least that's certainly what it feels like. There are very few cards that are being used. And garbage cards like this, like Inspired Charge, this is not constructed level. The truth is, most Magic cards aren't constructed level. So if they're not constructed level, Wizards of the Coast wouldn't be able to sell most of these cards individually. They can only sell them as a draft experience. They can only sell them in the booster pack because you're not going to buy the majority of these cards. No one's going to run out to buy Star Crown Stags. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to pay money for a 3/3 for 4 mana that taps a guy when he attacks. It's garbage. It's only good when everybody's stuck with garbage. That's what draft is. Draft is everybody stuck with garbage. The majority of a Magic booster is garbage. Not talking about the art, not talking about the flavor, just boiling it down to mechanics and playing the game. Because that's what's really going to matter at the end of the day when you're trying to sell these cards to a majority of people, right? And they can look nice and everything, but if the mechanics of the game and the power ain't there, people aren't going to be playing. So they can't sell them directly because it would completely obliterate their booster pack business model. And on top of that, losing the booster packs would diminish Magic in a number of ways. A booster pack is a really nice introduction to the world of Magic the Gathering. You open that booster pack and you're like, okay, let's go explore the world. That journey of discovery would be diminished. It would be the same as just looking on a spoiler, going, okay, I'm going to order 2 of these, 4 of these, 2 of these. And on top of that, Wizards of the Coast is going to have to deal with the situation of, like, do we go full on power creep? Because it's the only way you're going to be able to sell cards going forward, right? It's going to get to the point where you print cards and people, are you going to discontinue your older cards where it's like, we're not printing these anymore and that's the only way we can get you to buy these new cards? Because if you can still buy these old individual cards, they're straight up better than these newer versions. Like, a lot of newer versions of things that we see, not all, but a lot of newer versions that we see of things are just weaker versions of previous cards. Like, look at Dark Confidant. They're desperate to come up with a new Dark Confidant. They keep coming up with new creatures that have that ability, trying to hit that sweet spot. But Dark Confidant is at like the top of the power curve. That printing a card that's as powerful or more powerful than Dark Confidant's going to be really, really difficult for them. And as far as I understand, the Dark Confidant, I believe, was part of the one of those reward cards for winning. You win certain events, you get to design a magic card. And that's where we got some crazy powerful cards. But the point is, if they sold cards individually, then all, like basically, old booster packs still have value. You can still crack old booster packs, no problem. Who knows what you're going to get? You might get the big money, you might not. Old booster packs still matter. But when it would come to singles, they would be obsoleting a bunch of their singles as they went along. And nobody would be stepping up to buy camels and like Oaken forms. Who would buy a Rocks Oracle? Are you going to buy this, honestly? Are you going to pay 5 mana for a 4/2 that lets you draw a card when it comes in? You're not. Wizards of the Coast has gotten into the business of selling us a bunch of garbage cards. It used to be, when they started out and they were designing sets, they were just building them to the world. Here's the world we're in. Let's make cool cards that fit into the world. Now, it's built towards draft. And so the majority of what's in packs are just rehashes and absolute garbage that you can't sell. And world building becomes more difficult as well when you have to focus on only powerful cards and things of that nature. If they can't put in their camels and their goats and their workhorses and all this kind of nonsense, then they're not able to build the world as easily and effectively because they're only showcasing the biggest, flashiest pieces of it. So they lose that as well. On top of that, if you're selling singles, it's going to be a race to the bottom with yourself, right? Either you have to keep coming up with cards that compete with your previous cards because you're trying to sell them to people, and those old cards are still for sale. And if they're not, then you're competing with your own secondary market because people still have those cards that you've created and sold, and now they're selling them on the secondary market. So you've got to compete with yourself and the secondary market in that scenario. It would influence design even more heavily, obviously, in terms of the way that sets would come out. You would have... How are you going to sit there and design a set with 300 cards when you know that only 20 of those cards are going to sell? It would wildly alter how Magic the Gathering is designed. I think that if you look at something like Force of Will versus Magic the Gathering, Force of Will only has 10 card packs, but they also have sets that are only like 110, 120 cards. And they don't have nearly the same amount of repetition that Magic the Gathering does. Magic the Gathering relies a lot on repeating the same things over and over and the same kind of like draft environment. We're going to give you a draft environment where white does this, black does this, red does this, blue does this, green does this, in very unimaginative ways. I think that the game, if they were selling individual cards, the game would have already flared out and died under the strain of it. And on top of that, with the booster packs, they get to take advantage of the fact that there is actually a psychological aspect that kicks in with this like randomized rewards, and it's almost like a gambling trigger. It's not really gambling because you always get something, but it does tie into that same sort of mentality. And I totally am like that. I totally want to crack. Like when I'm cracking packs, I want to crack more, looking for that goodness. That adds to Wizards of the Coast bottom line. And without booster packs, that all goes away. And if booster packs are set when what you can get in them, that's not going to do it either. It has to be randomized. I can't count the number of people I know who have been looking for a particular uncommon, and instead of just buying the uncommon they want, they go and buy pack after pack after pack, trying to crack it and get it. And I mean, I even feel the same mentality when I crack some packs on Arena. I'll crack my packs on Arena, and then I want to crack more. I want to get more stuff from my collection. More. I want that hit. And you wouldn't get that with individual. You would just sit there and go, okay, I want this, and buy them directly. And at a certain point, Wizards of the Coast is just going to have to start slashing their prices if sales soften at all. And once they start slashing the prices, they're not going to be able to ever move them back upwards. So it's a really ugly scenario to find themselves in. And in all honesty, I can't see a conceivable way that Wizards of the Coast could survive as a company and still, with their same business model, basically, and still sell Magic the Gathering, but as individual cards. Without booster packs, the entire model falls apart. There's no genuine way to argue it. People will come along and say, it'd be better, but they can't, like, you can only say it'd be better for the consumer at the end of the day. And yes, it would be, but if it doesn't cause the company to make enough money, there will be no more product. You can go, oh, it'd be great if I could just order the 20 cards that I want. And then, yeah, but then they wouldn't be designing all these cards and making the sets all together. And the new Magic would be like, here's the new 30 cards we designed, guys. We would get 30 or 40 cards. Standard would be the most stagnant thing in the absolute universe. So to me, it doesn't seem feasible at all. Now, if there's points that I'm missing and you somehow think it would be feasible, let me know. But I do not see it numerically working. I see it as an absolute it would just be a race to the bottom. Starting to just sell singles would be the end of Magic the Gathering, and that's why you see me railing on about it when I see them making products like the Jace's Signature Spellbook, when I see them making the Mythic Masterpiece box, because to me, moving into the singles market is going to destroy Magic the Gathering. The key for Wizards is keep your eye off the secondary market, except for picking a couple of reprints for core sets and stuff like that, and just focus on making good sets with good cards that people want, and the booster pack model is the way to do it. So let me know your thoughts, my friends. We're going to check in with the 6-color Magic.
In the swamps, mountains, deserts, islands, or in the forest, remember to take care of yours cherished hatchlings, because together we are the 6 colors of magic.
One thing left to do, to roll that golden scroll. The people who have my back on Patreon, my golden lords, looking for a couple more to get the number up to 100, trying to have 100 golden lords at my back. Oh yeah. So what's it going to be next, my friends? What would you like? Would you like some more magical conversation? Would you like to come on over to my other channel where I do some different silliness? Up to you, baby. Let's just keep hanging out. Hail to the king, baby!